nasty mountains.
It's a back seat for him today, but who will challenge, of course, the man who we think is still the favourite, Bob Gilberto Simoni, but we have a different rider in the pink, in Popovic, and of course there is Garzelli. There's two names for you to play with.
Well, Jaroslav Popovic, we knew that he would start his maturation process in this Giro d'Italia, but he's already come to the fore with the big pink jersey for a very small, modest team. He's been doing a great Giro. He's steady in the climbs, not as scintillatingly fast up the mountains as Simoni has been, but he's steady. You can see him just tacking onto the back there. He knows where he needs to be. So far, he's ridden a flawless Giro d'Italia. Of course, he did a great time trial, so now he's in pink. Garzelli's been a little bit of a disappointment so far. He's had some stomach troubles. He's had some bad luck, got a flat tire in the time trial. He's still not too far away, but he needs to be a little bit closer, and when Simoni can match him in the time trials, then Garzelli's going to have a very hard time in the mountains. He might be a little bit off of his form, but we'll have to see today. Garzelli needs to come out, and he definitely needs to stay up there with Simoni as we get towards the finish line. He can't lose any more time.
Right. Paul, the Seiko team have had a good tour, 10 days in the pink jersey with two riders, Cunego and with Gilberto Simoni. Simoni's still marginally, I suppose, at the moment, the race favourite.
Well, he's the top man of the team, absolutely. But let's not forget, they still have a strong team of 9 complete riders. But yes, Gilberto Simoni is the #1 man. He's the king. He's the top of the pile for this team, Team Seiko, because he's the defending champion and a 2-time winner. Both he and Cunego have ridden very well together. Simoni has really proved to be the most scintillating on the climbs. He has the ability to accelerate on the big, steep climbs. He defended himself in the individual time trial, but you know what? The fact that he's got alongside him a very strong ally, I think, in Damiano Cunego is going to be very important over the next mountain stages. Cunego actually set up the victory for Gilberto Simoni on stage 3, and then he defended for him on stage 7. I think the two are going to be very good together. They will work hard together, and they will need to work as one solid team to make sure they can get rid of Jaroslav Popovic, because he is a rider with an awful lot of talent. Let's not forget that.
A lot of nervous boys at the start this morning, and I can in fact tell you there's a very interesting breakaway on. We'll be joining the action almost immediately, and it could reshape the race. But right now, of course, the man who started the day in the pink jersey is the youngster who's promised so much, with a 12th and a 3rd in his 2 previous Giros, and still only 24. He now has the lead. There he is, Jaroslav Popovic, under pressure today. Will he be up to it? Goes out with a 3-second advantage over Sergei Honchar, a minute 2 over Bradley McGee. Simoni looking for a minute 27. Pelazzotti had a very good time trial to drop only 2 places. Damiano Cunego held the race lead for 6 days. He's still 6th, still very much a threat in this race. And Stefano Garzelli there must do something very special. Belli completing the top 10. Paul, we don't no longer talk about the sprinters, but we must mention Robbie McEwen has now gone home. He won't be going into the mountains today. But who will be leading the men over what is a very difficult route?
Well, it's going to be a very difficult route. It will be the climbers today, absolutely certain of that, because this profile is not one for men with weak stomachs this morning. It is a very difficult race route. The first real hard day that we've had in the Giro d'Italia. Stage 16 takes the riders away from San Vendemiano, where they finished yesterday, up to Falzese. Look at this, though. This is what is scary if you're a non-climber. The first climb is nothing really much to worry about, but Passo Valparola goes up to 2,200 metres. Passo Furcia is also very difficult, and there's a nasty climb towards the end. It's 217 kilometres, 135 miles, but 4 big climbs on the day. Points leader Alessandro Patacchi shouldn't figure, but watch out for Fabian Wegman. He's the leader of the King of the Mountains classification. By the way, the last time we came here, the man who won there was Lance Armstrong's teammate, Chechu Rubiera.
And Wegman so far, Paul, has been the star of the day. 17 riders getting clear. Little flashback here to the first climb of the day. And Wegman taking on Alexander Moos and getting the points. So moving ahead in the King of the Mountains today. Very intelligent riding by Fabian Wegman. Moving on to the Staulanza climb, which was at 83 kilometres. It was a real battle this time, but in the end, Wegman did get the best of the rest, and he got the maximum 5 points at the top of this climb. So they're the 2 climbs that have gone by, and the Staulanza and the Valparola. Now we're moving on to the Passo Furcia, and it is here that we are now seeing a reaction from Simoni, who is riding the climb 10 minutes back.
He's being set up once again by his teammate there. A very nice move by Damiano Cunego. This is really turning out to be a very important stage. There's Gilberto Simoni, admirably marked there by the pink jersey of Jaroslav Popovic. But those 2 riders are working exceptionally well together. You see Damiano Cunego, I think, Bob, today is going to be a real rival to the leader, Gilberto Simoni. They've got to try and play a 1-2.
Well, Simoni attacked earlier on this climb. It drew this little group away. Led there, I believe, is Giuliano Figueres, but you can see Jaroslav Popovic right behind. They're going to have to start chasing Cunego, and Cunego has made an attack now. He's just a little bit ahead of this group, the pink jersey group of Popovic, and there's Simoni just riding comfortably, but we can see a little bit further up the road, Damiano Cunego is putting in a huge attack now. He's 6th overall, and it'll be Popovic's job to chase him down. Figueres could play the spoiler there, but Simoni is in a great position.
We're going back up to the front of the race here. This is Nicky Aebersold, who broke away on the climb here of the Fusea and has gone over the top in first place. The first on Beckman has lost today. The 17 riders getting away. The best placed of them is Christoph Brandt, 6:14 down overnight, has been the race leader on the road for a long way today, but there are signs now that they're trying to wind them back in a little bit. They were out at one stage to almost 12 minutes lead.
This is the first category climb of the day, the Passo Furcia. It's 12 kilometers long, an average gradient of 6.5%. At the summit, it's 1,759 meters. That's around about 5,400 feet. As we go over the summit here with Nicky Aebersold, there's 53 kilometers to go. He'll get himself big points in the King of the Mountains classification, but the man who's done a great job on the road, Phil, is definitely Fabian Wegman.
He's ridden with great intelligence today. He's not a pure climber by any means, yet he's keeping his lead in the King of the Mountains. He's gone 17 points clear now of Damiano Cunego, who, even though he's attacking the group here, is too far behind to score points today. Only the first 5 riders getting points. Here we are now. Big effort being put on here by Cunego. He has been made the scapegoat by Sayuko. He's got to be chased down by Popovic in the end, and he's at 2 kilometers to the top of the pass.
I think he's actually being used here a little bit as the sacrificial lamb, because I didn't expect Gilberto Simoni to come out and attack until the final big climb of the day. They're called Trento, which is a very difficult group. We're looking at here Honchar on the back, and it's good to see him riding well up in the overall classification. But this is definitely a tactical move by these two riders. Here's the discussions going on with Gilberto Simoni back to the team car. Popovic looking nice and comfortable, and it was after that moment and that moment of negotiation with the team manager's car that then Damiano Cunego went out on the counter-attack.
Our old friend Rafael Iliano still in the moves again today. He's part of this 17-man group which are still dictating the race pattern. As I say, Brandt is the leader on the road. Luis Laverde is only 9 minutes down as well. He's in this breakaway, and there he is. So he's taking out the points there for second place. And it looks as though Beckman having to sit out a little bit on that climb. Back to the man who's chasing now. This is going to cause the first problem of the day for Popovic. He cannot let Damiano go too far away. He's 6th overall in the race, and he really hasn't got any men around him to counter the move. So he's going to rely heavily on following Simoni as we go on to the last climb of the day. Well, for the leaders, they're 55 kilometers from the finish, a bit more for the rest. We'll take a break.
The 2004 Giro de...
And welcome back. We're on pass number 3 on the climbs today, the Passo Fuscia. And we're looking now at the riders under the escort of Gilberto Simoni. Most of the leaders are in this group, but they're riding still some 2 kilometers behind 17 men. And in between now, the lone figure of Damiano Cunego, who is trying to bridge the gap by himself.
You're down here on 1 or 2 riders in difficulty. This is Emmanuel Sella, who won a stage a couple of days ago in a very dominating style. We were expecting to see him ride well, but let's not forget his first attempt at the Giro d'Italia, and obviously with the big pressure coming on the front, with the big battle for supremacy, he was put into difficulty on the early slopes of the climb. His teammate is there, you can just see on the right-hand side in that orange jersey of Panaria. That's Giuliano Figueres. In there as well, Stefano Garzelli, Sergei Gonchar, for the moment looking quite comfortable. I don't think the Biggs attacks have just happened. I think they're going to wait until that final climb of the day, which is a very difficult climb and ideally situated at 10 kilometers to go to the summit, to the finish, the climb of the Passo Trento.
Rugro Manzoli here. Marzoli rather has been picked up by Cunego. Marzoli was in a group of 4 riders who never did contact the leading 17, and he's the last survivor of those 4, I believe, and Cunego's passed the others. And now they're going over the top of the climb. 56 kilometres to go now for these two. Cunego not scoring any mountain points there. He was second in that competition at the start of the day. He's falling away a little bit now because Alexander Moos is scoring up front along with the leader, Fabian Weckmann. But he is making ground, and there are now 17 riders in front. And the most dangerous of them, Christoph Brandt, Luis Leverde and Andrea Tonti. Ironically, Tonti of Seiko.
Yeah, but just look at this. There were 2 riders in that leading group of 17 for Team Seiko. They had in the leading group Eddie Mazzolini and Andrea Tonti, and somebody from that leading group has just sat up and waited. This is obviously going to be a well-orchestrated move. I didn't catch who that was, but I think it was Tonti. Eddie Mazzolini probably just a little further up the road.
Mazzolini and Tonti both in the breakaway, not doing any work. They'll have plenty of energy depending on what happens in the race situation. I think that was Tonti that sat up there from the breakaway, went back to get Cunego. Wouldn't have been able to do that in the old days before the advent of the radios the riders carry in their pockets, and they can hear the team director. So when he told Cunego to go, he also simultaneously asked Tonti to wait up, and now both of them can start chasing the leaders that are quite a ways up the road. And here's the chase group there, Popovich and Simoni, and it looks like Steve Zampietti as well as Stefano Garzelli still in this group, along with Dario Cioni is in there. So all of the favorites are in the Giro. Vladimiro Belli as well as the others right there chasing. Lobato there tacked onto the back from Sonia Duval. It's a very exciting stage. All the way up to the front, Nicky Abersold in the lead of the bike race.
But what it has done, in fact, is immediately isolated Jaroslav Popovic, because although Gilberto Simoni is currently on his own in that group with Popovic, up the road there are 3 riders from Team Seiko. We've seen Eddie Mazzolino and Tonti in the leading breakaway this morning, and now with that attack coming forward of Damiano Cunego, it actually puts them in a much stronger position tactically.
Looking down there, the hero of the stage a few days ago to Cesena, and that's Emmanuel Sella, who broke away, the only man that's won by a lone win so far on this year's tour. We're looking down now at the pink jersey. He's feeling the real pressure of carrying that jersey now. He's got no team around him. This is the one, the sharp hand bends. There's the rider who fell back to bring up Damiano along with Marzoli. And in fact, the rider there is Mazzolini, who fell back. So they've left Tonti up there as a reserve, I think, because Tonti is very well placed in 28th place overall, but he's 10 minutes behind the race leader.
You can see the leading group forming now. Now, this will certainly put a lot of pressure on Jaroslav Popovic. He need not panic for the moment, because there are a lot of individual riders in that group who'll be thinking about their placings in the overall classification. These are the current standings in the King of the Mountains classification, with a great raid out on the road today. Fabian Weckmann now increases his lead in that competition there to 45 points for 28 points to Damiano Cunego, and moving up that board as well, Alexander Moos. Gilberto Simoni quite a way behind now in 4th position, but he's not really worried about these smaller competitions. What is more important to him, in fact, really, is to try and win this bike race overall.
Almost 5 hours today, despite the fact that we haven't done that many kilometres, but the mountains have slowed them right down. The average speed has been inside 22 miles an hour, but the climbs have been biting hard. This is the move so far of today's stage, trying to get Damiano Cunego up to that leading group and become the next wearer for Seiko of the pink jersey. Remember, he had it for 6 days. He's looking for it back here. It's a classic move, and it's put Popovic on the defence already with about 50 kilometres to go. We'll take a break. And welcome back. This is Nicky Abersold making a meal of that right-hand bend coming off the last pass. 32 years of age, the day this year's Tour de France starts. He hasn't won a race since 1998, but right now he's leading the charge towards the final climb of the day.
This is Tonti now. This is another very clever move. Andrea Tonti has been given the information by the team management. Sit up. We've got a counter-attack situation on here. We've got the pink jersey under pressure. He's got 2 teammates chasing, Eddie Mazzolini and Damiano Cunego, with a slight advantage over the main field of the pink jersey, I should say, at the moment. This is the lone leader, Nicky Abersold. He's ploughing a very lone furrow at the front end of the race, but the action, Bob, really is behind and the assault on the pink jersey.
Well, it seems as if Saeko is picked today to go on a real raid against Jaroslav Popovic. I think that's an absolutely correct thing to do. They need to put pressure on him today, especially. If he stays with Simoni, it's not the end of the world. There'll be a lot of fatigue that come into the legs that will affect him as the race gets more and more into the mountains. Tonti just taking a little bit of a rest there, waving to the folks at home. He's having fun right now, but in a few minutes he's going to be suffering like an animal because he's going to have to do tempo for Cunego, who's coming up fast. Everybody chasing this man right here, Niki Erbasald from the Swiss team. I think it was the Swiss Championships he won a few years ago. That might have been his last race. 40 kilometers to go, and one more big climb, the Trento Pass, that will lead them through these streets in the province of Bolzano, where both Austrian and Italian are spoken.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is a bit of fun for him. It's although very difficult being a domestique because he's been in the breakaway since early on this morning. After the 21st kilometre he got in the breakaway. At one stage they had a 15-minute advantage over the main field. Team manager comes alongside and says, well, you've worked pretty hard all afternoon, but now just sit back because we're actually going to start racing.
Sending the boys up, and Cunego is the first of the two-pronged attack which Saeko can still do. Having brought back Tonti, which himself was only 10 minutes and at one stage was lying third overall on the road in this race today. So it's just up to these boys now to try and reshape this race. They won't be too concerned about Ebersol. If he can hang on there, he could even win the stage, but this is the in battle now to find the next owner of that pink jersey. Well, let's leave the Tour just for a second and move on to a man who's hoping to win the Tour de France. And if you want more access to Lance Armstrong, OLM will give it to you as part of our series which follows Lance around. It documents his life as he now prepares for his sixth victory in the Tour de France. The Lance Chronicles every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, only on OLM. Remember the time change there, 9 p.m. Back now looking at the pink jersey. Popovic doing very, very well here. Now, as we're looking here at Jaroslav Popovic, tagged onto the back wheel of Gilberto Simoni, let's just have a little in-depth look at the man who leads the Giro with Paul Sherwen.
Ukrainian rider Jaroslav Popovic is one of the leading examples of the precocious talent coming through with the younger generations of pro riders. At the 2003 Giro, he was a mere 23-year-old and only in his second year as a professional, but he was still chosen to be the leader of his Belgian team, Lambrou Credit Colnago. Competing against riders up to 10 years his senior and powerhouse teams with much more experience than Popovic, he was already tipped for talent and a man to watch for the future. He showed there was no need to wait and earned himself a podium spot in Milano, finishing third place overall. He rode strongly in the mountains and even tried to attack race leader Gilberto Simoni on stage 14 before a lightning dose of reality brought him to his senses. The 2004 Giro, however, has been different, a fruition of promise in many ways. Defending champion Simoni is still not in pink. And after Popovic surprised all by riding to third place in the stage 13 time trial, it's the young Ukrainian who is now pulling on the leader's jersey. Popovic has a 127 cushion over Simoni, and you just know that with the start of the mountains today that the fireworks and the fun are just about to begin.
And what's happening today isn't really surprising. Jaroslav Popovic under pressure. There's that shot again from Ebersol. The chase group here is also safely around. Dicey Old Bend had it been raining today, but as you can see, it's a fine summer's day. Blue skies up in the Dolomites.
Absolutely superb racing conditions. Here we're looking at the lone leader, Niki Ebersol, yes, a former champion of Switzerland and a member of Tyler Hamilton's Phonak team, a team that will be lining up to try and challenge Lance Armstrong in the month of July at the Tour de France. Look at this, Christoph Brandt. He's actually the highest placed rider in that breakaway, but I think it's all going to change before we get to the finish.
This is the Saeko train trying to get Cunego up. They're still waiting to pick up Tonti, who's not too far up the road. Rules of international cycling, you can't turn around and go and look for your people behind you. You have to just continue in the direction of the race and wait for them to come to you. And while they're doing that, we'll take a break. Simoni just joining at the back of them. We've got Pelazzotti, who is 5th overall, and 3rd place Brad McGee. So they've recovered and they're back into the group now. And you can see down there the pink jersey. Up ahead, I can tell you that Tonti has now dropped back to Cunego, Marzoli and Mazzolini, and also with him Bertolini and Fabian Weckmann, the leader in the King of the Mountains. They've also come back from the front break. So the chasing group there now of 6 men. chasing Ebersol, who's out on his own, and the remnants of the original breakaway between those two groups.
They've done exactly what they had to do at the start of the day. They've isolated Jaroslav Popovic, and it may well be that tactics will turn against Gilberto Simoni, who's defending champion here at the Giro d'Italia. But he's openly said, as far as he's concerned, the most important thing is for that red jersey to win the Giro d'Italia at the end of the race. Doesn't matter whether it's him or Damiano Cunego. For the moment, it's advantage Damiano Cunego, Bob.
Absolutely. He has two teammates now, Mazzolini and Tonti, doing a big chase up the road to Niki Abersol. But what they're trying to do mainly is get time on the group containing the pink jersey, and that would be Jaroslav Popovic, who is in a very rough spot right now. He's got one climb to go, 35 kilometers for the chasers of Niki Abersol. But Popovic, he needs to come out and make an attack because Cunego has gone way up the road. He's a minute 48 behind, and I'm sure that Popovic, without any teammates, is going to have a very hard time in the finale of this bike race.
5 kilometers, 3 miles on the road, separating their leader, Niki Abersol, and the group of the pink jersey. This is the group on the counter-attack. They've picked up Fabian Wegman. You can just see on the back there. But this is a superb piece of tactical manoeuvring here. We've got two very strong bike riders with Damiano Cunego, Eddie Mazzolini, and a man who has just been picked up, Andrea Tonti. Now, this really does make it very difficult for Jaroslav Popovic, because he does have to panic a little bit. He's a young rider, just 24 years of age. He's the leader of the bike race, but he's put under serious pressure by this other team, the big dominant team. We said, I think, at the start of the Giro, Phil, that the big problem with Jaroslav Popovic, if he wanted to win this bike race, he himself personally had no weaknesses. The weakness was him, was his team.
That's right. You can only answer so many attacks, and you've got to try and read the race correctly, and it's an obvious tactic by Seiko to counter with other riders. And if he stays and watches Simoni, not only will he lose the race, but it might well be that Simoni will lose the race as well, and Damiano Cunego will become the new star of the squad. Everything up for grabs today, that's for sure. I'll try and give you the breakdown on the race as we look at it. The leaders are, or the leader is at 33 kilometres from the finish. Niki Abersol, one big climb still to come. Approximately 7 riders chasing the remnant of an original breakaway of 17 riders. Then there is the Cunego chase group of 6. And then we go back to a bunch of 18 riders, and that includes the pink jersey and Gilberto Simoni and Bradley McGee.
Bradley McGee making a stellar descent just a few moments ago to get himself back into the group with Pelazzotti, who was put under a bit of pressure. But this is the first mountain stage. Here's one of my big favourites from this bike race. He's done a fabulous ride. That's Dario Cioni. He's in the group of the pink jersey. He's a man who's done so much work for Alessandro Petacchi, and now he has the chance, Bob, over the next few days to ride for himself. And great to see a former mountain biker like Cadel Evans doing so well at the top end of the sport of road racing.
I had a few moments to talk with Cadel at the recent Tour of Languedoc in France. He was there for T-Mobile. Cadel's starting to come on form now. He's living in Switzerland. It was a bitterly cold spring and winter in Europe, so the Australian, they're not quite used to that, but he's starting to come good. Did have a bit of a crash in the Tour of Languedoc and was unable to do the last stage of the bike race.
Fortunately, he didn't break anything this time.
I think that he's on the upswing for luck, because absolutely, like you said, he didn't break any bones on this crash.
The 3 collarbones are broken last year. He fell off on the other side, fortunately, in the Tour de Languedoc. Now, we've got a little idea what Lance Armstrong is doing, but we can remind you too as to exactly what Lance Armstrong and his biggest rivals are doing to prepare for this year's Tour de France, and you can find out all of it on Road to the Tour. Get all the behind-the-scenes updates, interviews and race highlights this Thursday, every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on OLN. Well, there is the pink jersey group of 18 riders containing the majority of the overall leaders, but the rider who lies in 6th place is now ahead of them. There's the latest update, 1:45 back to the remnants of the break, chasing Niki, 5:18 to the Cunego group, and 8 minutes 12 now to the group containing the pink jersey. So the Cunego is virtual leader of the race on the road at the moment, but there's still one big climb to come. We'll take a break. Welcome back. 19 wins throughout his career. Niki Abersol, this will go down as the biggest of them all. 29 kilometres to go. He still leads the race towards the final climb of the day today. Once over the top, it's all downhill, and it's only about a 10-kilometre drop too. So there's a chance for the big former champion of Switzerland. Meanwhile, the infight continues. The pendulum now swinging in the favour of Damiano Cunego as he's pulling 3 minutes ahead of the pink jersey and his team captain, Gilberto Simoni.
Superb tactical move this by Team Serco. I'm pretty sure it was already pre-planned at the start of the day. In fact, this morning, nobody wanted to talk about team tactics or give anything at all away. Sorry about the little bit of picture breakup, but these are live pictures, and it's all to do with the fact we're going through that small town there, and there's a bit of a breakup with our link from the helicopter to the motorbike and down to the finishing line. That there is the pink jersey group, the group that contains Jaroslav Popovic, but also most of the other major challengers as well. Bradley McGee has managed to get back into this group with Alessandro Pellizotti, the man from Alessio, who was in a bit of difficulty on that final climb. They are facing themselves up, though, to a 20-kilometre ride to the bottom of the final climb of the day, a very difficult climb, the Passo Terento, which at a couple of points, Bob, kicks up to 12%. And I think with the pressure that's in that group there of Gilberto Simoni, we're going to see an explosion of that group on the final climb of the day.
I think that's when Simoni will make his moves to get rid of Popovic, and Popovic is going to have to close the gap to this group right here, containing Damiano Cunego and two of his Saeco teammates. It's Eddie Mazzoleni, the brother of Renzo Mazzoleni, as well as Andrea Tonti. They're both in the front with Thomas Wegman doing lots of work. They're chasing this man, Nicky Abersold. He is a lone leader way up the road by himself, minute 43 on the chase group, but it's the Cunego group that's put this race under serious explosive pressure. It's going to be Jaroslav Popovic, who's back there with Simoni, who's going to have to attack on the last climb of the day as Abersold tries to get to the finish line by himself. I don't know if it's going to be possible. A very long, hard climb before the finish. And here you can see there's a bunch of groups in between Abersold and the Cunego group, who's 3 minutes ahead of the Simoni group containing Jaroslav Popovic and most of the other favorites. It was interesting to see Pellizotti get dropped on the second big category climb with one climb to go, but he came back into the group in good order with Andrea Noia, his faithful teammate.
This is the Cunego group, and we reckon the spread across the whole race is no more than 7.5 minutes right now. Back to the 19 riders are strengthening that chase group with the pink jersey in it. One more rider has got on there. Brief glimpse there of what's left of the original breakaway. It was being led there by Laverde and Christoph Brandt, the two riders up there with the most to gain on time today. At one stage, Brandt was the leader on the road, but I think he's lost that now because Cunego, I think, will very shortly be racing in this group of 6 riders up into that second bunch of riders on the road. We are going to see some fireworks on the last climb today. There is no doubt about that. 30 kilometres to go now for the leader. At the 35-kilometre banner, he was exactly 5 ahead of the pink jersey group. I would think he's losing a little bit of that now.
I think he will lose an awful lot on the final climb of the day. He's inside of 30 kilometres to go. A few words of advice there coming from Alvaro Pino, the team manager of Team Phonak at this race, and he'll be looking at a very difficult few kilometres when he gets up to the climb of Passo Terento, Phil, because that's 8.5 kilometres long and exceptionally steep.
Back to the second group on the roads. The clock runs. Luis Laverde, followed by Christoph Brandt. Oh, he's not now, but he was earlier. They're the riders who are chasing. We'll take a short break. Rejoin us for more action. Welcome back. The clock still running here at 30 kilometres to go in the Giro d'Italia. The second group has gone through a minute 39. They were the remnants of the original breakaway behind Abersold. The clock's still running on Cunego's group, and it's still over 3.5 minutes.
It's a big gap to the leading group, but I'm fairly certain that Nicky Abersold will lose a lot of time on the final climb of the day, but that's not really important. Individual glory is not what's counting this afternoon. What is counting is the pressure that this group is actually putting onto the leaders of the race, men like Jaroslav Popovic. They've got a fairly big ally here, haven't they, Bob? Because Fabian Wegman, as they go at the 30-kilometre sign there with 3:48 in arrears, Fabian Wegman is riding like a man possessed. He's obviously thinking to himself, if he can stay with this group and recatch that group that's just in front, he's once again got a chance to get himself some King of the Mountains points.
If he gets one more set of Category 1 points, he would have a real lock on the KOM jersey, considering the rest of the riders here going for the GC. Not too worried about that. So Wegman doing a hard chase along with Tonti and Mazzoleni in front of Damiano Cunego. Ruggero Marzoli is tacked onto the back of that group. He attacked just before Cunego did and had enough energy to stay with him on the climb and the descent. So Marzoli has done a good job because he doesn't have to do any work in that chasing group, but all of them are still quite a long ways behind the original breakaway, being led by Nicky Abersold.
Well, at the start of the day, Damiano Cunego was 1 minute and 48 seconds behind the overall leader, Jaroslav Popovic. There he is, but only 21 seconds behind his own team leader, Gilberto Simoni.
Gonchar sitting right on the back wheel there of Popovic too. The man we always think is a time trialist isn't a bad road racer himself. He's had a 4th place in the Giro d'Italia in the past, and he's not going to let it slip just yet by the look of it. The clock's still running on that 30 kilometres to go, and then we'll have a complete spread of the race situation. It's just up around the corner, I think, the banner. Aebersold went through now more than 5 minutes ago. He has a real chance of getting for him the biggest victory of his career, but the action for the pink jersey is still much further down the road. 5:21, that is a big gap still.
It's a huge gap. If it gets to 5:48, that actually puts Damiano Cunego definitely into the pink jersey on the road if the race was to stop now. But the race will not stop now because we've still got a very important first category climb to go to the finish. And it is, I would say, Bob, very similar to a mountaintop finish because it's a very difficult climb and then immediately downhill to the finish around about 10 kilometres, 6 miles from the top of the last climb of the day.
It's absolutely the GC battle in the Giro d'Italia. The clock stopping at 3:48 behind Abersold, but it's the gap back to the Simoni Popovic group that will really tell the tale. It was 3 minutes the first time check we got, and it's creeping up to that right now. Remember, Cunego's group went through there just around 3:45. So now we'll take the time again at the 35 kilometers to go, and we'll see if that 3-minute gap is increasing or is starting to come down a little bit. The chase is being organized a little bit by Vini Calderola as well as Alessio. Alessio a little bit worried because Pelazzotti was dropped, but now they're back on the front trying to close the gap, and if they're able to do that a little bit, Pelazzotti needs to hang in there with Simoni and Popovic, but there's going to be some very aggressive climbing on the
one of the
left.
Alessio riders, again in the front end of the race, has been told to sit up and wait for the team. He's actually early on, it looks as if that was Bertolini, who was a rider caught in the middle with one of the early morning attacks. A lot of team tactics are being pulled into play this afternoon. I think, Phil, a lot of riders, a lot of teams are under a bit of serious pressure here to try and pull this race all back together.
Well, the Bertolini's been sent from the front to the back. There is the crucial 30 kilometres, 6:59 now to the pink jersey. So let me give you the complete spread at 30 kilometres to go. One rider out in front, being chased by approximately 10 of the original breakaway at 1 minute and 39 seconds. 6 riders containing Cunego. The next pink jersey seems likely now at 3 minutes 48. And the group we're watching here, the pink jersey group of 19 men, 6 minutes 59. That's the spread, and this is the Cunego group. Again, we'll break away very briefly to remind you of more cycling on Thursday, May 27th. It is the Tour de Languedoc, and this is a race which is just finished, and it replaces, you may recall, the Midi Libre. It gives us a chance to look at some of the Tour de France's biggest names, including Lance Armstrong himself. Tune in to the 2004 Tour de Languedoc, Thursday, May 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on OLN. Plenty of cycling this Thursday on OLN. There's the lone leader, Nicky Abersold, 1 minute 39 ahead of the remnants of the break, who I don't think will come forward. But Cunego is being dragged now by his teammates Mazzolini and Tonti to another pink jersey, and that seems pretty sure now as he starts to close in on the men immediately in front of him. He needs to get back up alongside riders like Christoph Brandt. The last climb of the day is not easy. They're also going to ride home, as they are doing now, in a little bit of a headwind. So this race far from decided yet, but it's taking on a very strange shape. We'll take a short break. Towards the final climb of the day, it's a little bit of a brute of a mountain though. There's no guarantee he is going to stay away and not be caught by the men who are chasing. About 10 or 12 riders chasing it at just over 1 minute and 40 seconds, and then the Cunego group is closing in on those riders, but still well over 3 minutes back of them.
Well, I really would like to see who's going to start doing the majority of the pacemaking in the Maglia Rosa, the pink jersey group, because there are some big serious teams represented there. Team Alessio have got 3 riders. I've also seen the team of Vini Calderola have got a couple of strong riders in there too, but they may well be all banking on a major attack on the final climb of the day. This man, though, is doing a superb job of work for his team leader. That was Eddie Mazzolini just a few moments ago. I'm actually, although I'm quite pleased to see Fabian Wegman riding so hard on the front, Bob, I'm a little bit surprised to see him, especially with it when he understands the way the race is evolving.
He probably was dropped there on the last Category 1 climb, trying to get back on terms with the leaders up the road. Nicky Abersold also went away from the group that was the original breakaway in the race, and now he finds himself a minute 30 in front of the chasers, but with a very serious climb to come. And maybe they're setting something up for an attack to come from Alexander Moose for the stage. Moose won't have to be involved in the chase away at all. Back to the pink jersey group, it looks as if Alessio's starting to come to the fore, try to close the gap down a little bit. Pelizzotti had trouble on the climb, but now they have 3 guys in this group right now, and they can do something to limit the damage being put in by the Seiko riders Mazzoleni and Tonti on behalf of Damiano Cunego, who stands to get the pink jersey back at the end of the day from the race leader Jaroslav Popovic. Probably tactically at this point in the most trouble of anybody in the group without any teammates. Simoni can ride a defensive race for Cunego now if it is Popovic that attacks on the last climb. And watch for the chasing group of Nicky Abersold to close the gap a little bit. We saw the strain on his face as he goes across these flat roads by himself before the last climb. And here's the peloton going through, 25 Ks to go.
Well, there's the race situation at the start of the day, and you can see now why Cunego is making the gains there in 6th place at 1 minute 48. He's replaced that already over the pink jersey, so in theory he's the pink jersey elect of the Tour yet again. This man is racing purely for the stage win today. He's not a marked man by the race. He's too far behind overall Nicky Abersold. I noticed there too that the Denardi team car, I was wondering why Leonardo Giordani was working hard in the Denardi team in that chase group, and the team car's gone up and pulled him off. So he's told him to get back in his place, because there are 2 riders from Denardi in the second group on the road just now, and people like Gonchar can take benefit from the other pacemakers.
Well, interesting time checks there, because the time difference between the Cunego group and the Maglia Rosa group has just been reduced by around about 45 seconds. So obviously they are picking up the pacemaking in the pink jersey group. They were timed at 6 minutes behind Nicky Abersold, who leads the bike race here, but only 2.5 minutes behind the group containing Damiano Cunego. But I think that is all going to change on this final climb of the day. This is the Cunego group right now. They're working very solidly. They've found a very strong ally in Fabian Wegman, and they are around about 1.5 minutes behind the group, which is containing 12 survivors from the early morning breakaway. Cunego right now must be starting to feel just that little bit nervous, understanding that he's got a big important rendezvous in front of him. The lone leader there at the Testa della Corsa on the left-hand side, Nicky Abersold, has a 1 minute 20-second advantage over the group of chasers, Ensiguturi. There's still 1 or 2 pretty good riders in this group. We've got a shout, I suppose, Phil, for our man Charlie Vagelius, who's been on the attack since the early morning.
Absolutely, and there's Julio Perez there, the former king of the mountains in this race. He's been up there all day, not claiming points, strange enough, in the mountain tops, but certainly working in that break. So they've pulled back 19 seconds at the moment over the last 5 kilometres on the one man out in front. So there is a chance there. Now, what's happened here? Wegman has swung out. He's given his all there, and he's now about to pay the price. Now, I shall remain mystified for the rest of the day as to why Fabian Wegman worked so hard in that group only to do this to his legs. And those guys are not going to wait for him now. So, inexperience, it looks like it. There's the group gone away from him. He's now going to fall back to the next group on the road, which will be 19 riders, and in it is the pink jersey of Jaroslav Popovic, and of course the red jersey of Gilberto Simoni. 20 kilometres to go now for the chase group. About 1 kilometre and a bit ahead is Nicky Abersold, and everybody is working pretty hard, I have to say that now, but the steep climb of the day is still in front of them all. We'll take another short break. And welcome back, and a little bit of desperation in the group containing the pink jersey here. Now the Alessio riders are having to ride now as well for Pelizzotti, and of course they're going to get no help from Gilberto Simoni. I don't think there's anybody there to give any help from Lambau credit, so they've got to close down on Damiano Cunego's group, which is currently around 3 minutes ahead of them.
And you know, Team Seiko have got a very good stranglehold on the race for the moment. They have got 3 men on the counter-attack up at the front, with the best men Best man in the overall classification being Damiano Cunego. That puts an awful lot of pressure onto this group, which over the last couple of kilometers has swelled slightly in numbers, but they have reduced the deficit that they've had over the young attacker Damiano Cunego. As we go inside of 20 kilometers to go, a lot of work is being done on the front by Team Alessio, who are basically sacrificing the 11th place of Christian Moreni here this afternoon. Held in reserve there, we've seen Pavel Tonkov in the yellow jersey of Vinny Calderola, and I would say, Bob, that is because Stefano Garzelli might be feeling just a little bit worried about this final climb of the day. He hasn't really shown us the form that took him to second place last year and a victory a few years ago.
Yes, absolutely. So far, he's not shown a lot, not quite as good as he was last year. Of course, in 2000, he won the Giro d'Italia, and that was a special ride. He hasn't been able to duplicate that since. He hoped this year to be a lot stronger, and he has based his whole season on trying to win the Giro. Jaroslav Popovic also doing the same thing. He's benefiting from the work that the Alessio riders are now organized on the front doing. So Popovic has found himself in a pretty good position, especially if he can match the accelerations that will surely come from Gilberto Simoni on this last climb. I think this is the second group on the road. They're chasing Nicky Abersold, who's just ahead of them and starting to die now.
Look at the man who's whipping up the pace on the front there. Looks like the style of Julio Perez. This is the first part of the climb, a very long climb, climbing up to 1,271 meters in altitude. And immediately we've reached the first slopes of the climb. We've seen that these riders realize it's in the first few kilometers that it is the most difficult. The climb itself is around about 7 kilometers in length. The average gradient is 7.1%. Mind you, as we get closer to the summit, it does kick up to 12%. And look at this, it really does hurt this bike race.
It's the end of Tonti. Cunego's hit the mountain and he's going for it himself now. This is what's got to happen, of course, because the gap was coming down from the pink jersey. They were coming inside 3 minutes at 20 kilometers to go. This is now a real ripe time for Simoni to launch an attack and join Damiano Cunego. He'll have about 5 kilometers of steep climbing to do it, and he'll be looking to bridge a gap of around 250. These last few kilometers have shown Mazzolini and Tonti to be in all sorts of trouble here. They've given 100% to try and get Damiano Cunego to this point. Marzoli's had a wonderful free passage. He was up ahead in the break. First of all, Cunego picked him up and he sat there at the back of those Seiko riders ever since. This is Nico Aebersold still out in front and still got a real chance of victory.
I'm not sure. You look at that face. I think in a few moments' time we're going to see l'homme à marteau, the man with the hammer, about to pounce and bonk him on the head, wouldn't you say, Bob? Because he is under a serious spot of bother, especially over the first few kilometers. Look at this. Julio Perez once again accelerating. The first part of this climb for the first 4 or 5 kilometers is around about 10%. And I think Eddie Mazzolini's popped as well, and he's going to leave it all up now to his team leader, Cunego.
They've done their job. They've got their man to the slopes of the climb. They gave 100%, knowing that once they got him here, they wouldn't have the legs. But look at Mazzoli. Mazzoli here is just going to hang on to that back wheel as long as he can. And this is the move when it came. And that's it. You're on your own now, son. We've done all we can for you.
Ciao, ciao. I see you a bit later on, and that's what he's probably thinking. He might have to pull himself inside out a little bit later on, because he will get caught in a few moments by his own team leader, Gilberto Simoni. These are all riders dropping backwards, slipping back through the group. These are all men who were in the leading group just a little while ago.
That break is right in front of him now. All of the riders in that second group at about 150 meters ahead of Damiano Cunego. The rider who slipped back there was Rubens Battagliati. He was up in that group as well, and they're going to come together. This now is Charlie Wegelius of Britain. He's also dropping back through the line.
This man is weaving his way through what remains of the early morning breakaway, a group of 17 riders who got clear after just 12 miles of racing. This man here right now, he's paying for the big ride he's done from the top of the final climb just a few moments ago, the Passo Furcia. And Bob, I think this might be one climb too far.
One climb too many for Nicky Abersold, but I think that was a premeditated move on part of Phonak. They kept Alexander Moose in reserve, just sitting on the followers, and when that juncture will be made, it's Alexander Moose's job to go with all the accelerations that most certainly will come from Julio Perez.
Pink jersey group now, still Alessio pretty much in control at the front end of the group. They've called all their forces forward. Bertolini on the front, just ahead of Christian Moreni. One by one, this man is eating up past all of the breakaways. This is Baliani, who was in the early morning breakaway too. He too will be dispatched, I think, into the slipstream of the flying Damiano Cunego. This is a great move by this young man. Don't forget, he's only 23 years of age.
This is a remarkable ride now, and the third time we've seen him excel in this tour. And he's either got a stage win or a pink jersey on the last 2 times he's attacked. Thought he did okay in the time trial, he said, because he lacked experience in the big-time time trials. He certainly left himself in a position to go back into the pink, and he's now giving us that demonstration. And it looks to me as though poor old Nicky Ebersol has really hit the wall here. Up is coming the chasing group. 15.6 kilometres to go.
That's bad news, because if you do the maths quite quickly, that means it's still 5.6 kilometres to go to the top of the climb. And on a climb like this, you don't worry about losing a minute every 10 kilometres, Bob. It can be basically corresponded to something like a minute for every kilometre. But this man is working his way through those riders who were in that group very comfortably now. He's actually got rid of Marzoli, who's disappeared from the scene. There's Julio Perez on the right-hand side. Damiano Cunego is riding right through all of the attackers, and he's not far behind these men.
These are the leaders on the road now, and right in the distance there is this little wonder boy, Cunego, starting to hack his way through. Very shortly, he's going to be first man on the road and could be the stage winner as well today. This is remarkable. Our old friend Rafael Iliano is on the right of our picture. Laverdi is on the left. Iliano, for my money, should get something out of this race.
Let's hope he does. He's been on the attack so many times. Christoph Brandt is still holding on there as well. 15 kilometres to go. There's a return coming back. That must be Alexander Moose, I would expect. He was being kept in reserve by the team. But Bob, this is amazing. At the bottom of the climb, that young man in the red jersey there was around about 2.5 minutes behind. Now he's about 2.5 meters.
Yes, he's taken only a few kilometers here to close a huge gap. Damiano Cunego is putting in a marvelous ride on this stage today. Eddie Mazzolini doing a great job. Andrea Tonti, who was smiling as he waited for Cunego's group to catch up, but he was most certainly not smiling when we got onto this final climb. Then he was really suffering. But those 2 riders from Saeco doing a huge job. Now it is this man, Damiano Cunego, trying to close the gap, doing the premeditated move for the Saeco team. It'll be Jaroslav Popovic in Simone's group that's going to need to come out now and do some real attacking if he's going to close the gap. And it would seem as if now that Cunego is starting to go away, he needs to get to the top of this climb and then just a quick descent to the finish line, and he still has about 2.5 minutes lead on the chase group at the last time check.
Well, Ronaldo Nocentini hanging on there to an express train as the race continues to pick off the riders in the front. As Wall Rider's gone back now, this looks like trouble here for Garzelli. He's brought his men up with himself to the front of the remnants of the chase group. There is Sella down there as well, and Pelazzotti is the Alessio rider as well. These are the chasers, and they're going to have to try and do it because they are slowly being dropped now by the pink jersey and by Gilberto Simoni. But this man is leading the charge and could yet not only win the day but take the lead. And welcome back. The new star of Italian cycling has now eaten his way right into #1 position on the road at 12 kilometres from the finish. Damiano Cunego being shadowed here by Rinaldo Nocentini, who hasn't been able to work with him at all, but together they have pulled away from the rest of the attackers of the day.
Unbelievable. This has been a fabulous performance by this man, Ronaldo Nocentini, just holding on to the tailcoat there of the man in the red jersey of Team Saeco. That is Damiano Cunego, 23 years of age. He's got 2 stage wins in the Giro d'Italia so far, and he's also had the pink jersey on his shoulders. Right now, he is working as a superb ally for the team, because any which way they play this card, they are putting pressure onto the overall leader, Jaroslav Popovic. But Bob, this is amazing. He started this climb with a 2.5 minute deficit. He rode his way right through all of the groups, and now as he approaches the summit, this is a dominating performance.
Incredible ride here by Damiano Cunego. Rinaldo Nocentini doing a fabulous job just to stay on his wheel. Nocentini must have been saving himself for this very situation. Now he's starting to lose the wheel. Damiano Cunego is a big star now, emerging as one of the greats of Italian cycling, and this is an incredible performance. The team premeditated it, and now it's Popovic is going to have to chase.
I think that's ciao, hasta la vista, baby, because this man has not asked for any help for anybody at all. He has just continued to pound out this unbelievable rhythm as he now rides solo at the front end of the bike race. And I would expect his team leader, Gilberto Simoni, will just ride a defensive role in the group behind. A quick glimpse there of Christoph Brandt. He will move up in the overall classification with this fabulous ride this afternoon, but looking down there through the trees, we know that this man has gone out on the attack, Giuliano Figueras, well up in the overall classification. I'm surprised that Gilberto Simoni didn't go with that move just to cover it.
Well, he's playing his own game here, Simoni, and I would say on this climb, sooner or later, our cameras are well sped up the mountain now. We might miss a move for now. It's all possible, but, you know, I think Simoni has got to counter the attack, because even if he does allow Cunego to get the pink, and I can't see him stopping him doing that, he's going to have to chase people like Figueras, I think, yeah.
He needs to chase them if he can. This man now just waiting. He's inside the last 1.5 kilometres to get himself to the summit. It seems as if the pink jersey group has slowed down a fraction there, Bob, because you can see Stefano Garzelli and Franco Pellizotti have managed to reintegrate the group. And in the Gruppo Maglia Rosa, there's only one man now doing the pacemaking, the Maglia Rosa himself, Jaroslav Popovic. Not one teammate in the group to help him out.
Giuliano Figueras here making a good march up the road towards Cunego. He's just dropped the Maglia Rosa of Jaroslav Popovic. Popovic trying to chase now, trying to be the big leader of the Giro d'Italia, but it seems as if this man, Damiano Cunego, with an incredible premeditated plan by Team Saeco, has stolen away in this very few kilometers to the finish line. There'll be about 10 Ks from the top of the climb to the finish, and a real chase is going to have to come during that. It's all downhill, so Cunego has a very good chance to stay away.
This is number one.
Did you notice that Popovic was dropped there? He's lost the tail of the group as the camera's showing the four going clear. They waited for Popovic to make move. I think we can see that again now. There's Popovic on the front. There's the attack by Simoni. And no initial reaction. Then it came. Leonardo Giordani was the one that made the reaction there. But now this is the move we expected.
And Vladimir Belli immediately onto the wheel there of Gilberto Simoni. This is a group a little bit further down the climb, not really important in the overall play of this afternoon's race. This is the man trying to ride across the gap. Now, if Gilberto Simoni gets to Figueras, this is going to be a lot of pain for the overall leader, Jaroslav Popovic. He was on the front, setting the tempo as the leader of the bike race. Gilberto Simoni just sitting in the wings, looking to see what his pedaling action was like, what his style was like. He saw, I think, Bob, possibly a weakness and thought, I've got to go for it now.
Well, oddly enough, the devil himself had picked the right place of the Giro to see the attack. We saw a replay of it. There's some serious trouble that Popovic is in. He's been dropped by Simoni. They're all chasing Cunego. Figueras put in the first attack, but then as Popovic tried to close the gap to him, Simoni saw the weakness and took a big attack now. Popovic is struggling. He has to collect himself, get back into a better rhythm. Mazzolini is with him, and they're chasing this man who's chasing Cunego up the road, and lots of stragglers in between.
Very complicated race situation here on the final kilometre or so of this slope up to the summit of the last first category climb of today's stage, the climb up of the Passo Terento. But what we do know is that Damiano Cunego is riding himself up to the top end of the overall classification. But just a few moments ago, his team leader, Gilberto Simoni, has gone out on the counterattack and has seriously put the yellow jersey, the pink jersey, into difficulty. There is Vladimir Belli on the shoulders there of the man who wants to win this bike race for a third time. And watch out there for Sergei Gonchar, Phil, because he's just on the back of that little group of five. Now, he could be pulling himself up into the pink jersey position at the end of the day, because he started only 3 seconds down.
Yeah, well, a great fighter. Brad McGee has gone. He came up to the group but went as soon as the climb started in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Simoni now is finding he's picking up riders as well. He's got to get alongside his teammate Cunego, really, to save the day, because there'll be a small time bonus if he wins at 20 seconds for Cunego. So he doesn't need to be very far, a matter of a blink of the eyelid, if he wants to hold him from taking the pink. I don't think that's even in his thoughts right now. His only thought is to probably keep himself in the race along with Cunego, because Cunego, if he wins just like it is at present, I can't see anybody taking him out for the rest of the race.
It's tough not having a team around you. This man is completely isolated. That's why Team Saeco went out this morning and attacked. They put 2 men in their early morning breakaway, which escaped after 21 kilometres. They dropped the 2 men back to pace this man into a race-winning situation. But what the pressure of today's race has done is it's isolated the man Jaroslav Popovic, and we felt since the start of the Giro d'Italia, if he was going to win this race, the weakness was the fact that he did not have a team around him to support him in the critical moments. And that prophecy is coming true right now.
Charlie Begalius there, number 69. It's his job, in fact, to look after Sergei Gonchar, his team captain. He's right alongside him. Charlie's been out front all day since the 21st kilometre in the initial break. This is always a sad sight, but you now realise the benefit of having a strong team around you, as Gilberto Simoni and Damiano Cunego did today. They were able to use them as pacemakers and keep themselves fresh to launch themselves into the attack when it mattered. All Jaroslav Popovic could do was follow the wheels and hope that he could control them, but they had too many arrows in their quiver, I think.
Well, Cunego 20 seconds ahead of Nocentini. That last sight we got there of Popovic, he was trying to catch up to the group of Stefano Garzelli. Garzelli himself also put into difficulty by the acceleration of Gilberto Simoni. Not too far from the summit. Once he gets there, it really is an undulating ride to the finish, around about 10 kilometers once he goes under the banner. And if he can continue riding like this, he should stay status quo to the finishing line. But that won't be good news. 2 kilometers still to go to the summit of the climb.
That's a long way. That leaves 12 kilometers to the end of the race, Bob.
The rhythm that Cunego is tapping out now on the pedals is absolutely beautiful. You can see that it doesn't seem as if he's struggling too bad. He's concentrated. He knows he needs to make a huge effort. Figueira started the attacks to the pink jersey, and now Popovic is in serious amounts of trouble. That's Rinaldo Nocentini losing time with every pedal stroke to the man he was just with a few moments ago, Damiano Cunego. He'll be caught, I think, by the group of Simoni that's chasing hard. Gonchar doing a good job to match the acceleration along with Vladimiro Belli of Gilberto Simoni. But here's Popovic, the pink jersey. He needs to keep on climbing as hard as he can, find a good rhythm, but maybe the pressure of being in the pink jersey without a solid team is starting to get to him.
Well, in the final 2 kilometers, we actually get to the easier part of this climb, and it comes in at around about 3 or 4%, which is not that difficult. And as you can see, Cunego is now managing to get onto the outside chainring. He's got the big chainring in right now as Nocentini tries to do it, but you just see by the pedaling style there, it is rather difficult. This group has not had the complete and utter effect of damming away the overall leader. Gilberto Simoni, I don't think, really got what it takes on this slightly shorter climb here. And there, I think, we are looking down at the pink jersey, who in fact is pulling himself back into this race.
He's got a chance. Because, as Paul says, the road does flatten out a little bit for the last 2 kilometres. He's got a real chance. I think I said 10 kilometres to go, so that means he's right near the top of the climb now, because it should be 10 kilometres all the way off the top.
This is the second group on the road. You can just see Iliano involved there, as well as Laverde, the Colombian rider on the Formaggio Pinzoli team. And still trying to get himself across the gap was Giuliano Figueras. Let's look a little bit further back down the road. Here is the group of Gilberto Simoni, and he's not looking quite as dominant as he has over the last couple of days. Charlie Vergelis on the front in the blue jersey for Dinardi, trying to put the pressure on, because in fact the way the tactics are playing out right now, it is in fact Gonchar who's looking like the possible new leader in the overall classification. Started the day in second place, just 3 seconds off the lead. This man, though, has really lit the fireworks this afternoon. Team manager up alongside him, giving a little bit of advice. This is a moment when you have to remain calm and collected, because his body will be crying out for him to stop hurting it.
Well, it's been a magnificent piece of cycling by a young man there who's really turned it on in style again today. Just as we thought we were going downhill, it's a little swing left there as we continue our way up to the summit. Damiano Cunego still leading the charge now. Nicky Ebersol, who was up front, being completely wiped away as we now continue on towards the finish. 10 kilometres left to ride for Damiano Cunego. And I think Simoni isn't feeling that great. In fact, there we are, 9 kilometres to go now. That's just over 5 miles. Popovic has still a chance here of repairing a great deal of the damage, and he's had to do it all by himself. There's the groups he needs to contact. That is the particular group he's aiming at, containing Gilberto Simoni, Sergei Honchar, as we now head up towards the finish of the King of the Mountains. On the way down now, Cunego has got the points. It won't get in the lead in the King of the Mountains, but it'll give him a leg up again in that classification. Fabian Weckmann will still stay the lead at that.
Well, if he wants to take the overall lead away from the pink jersey here, he needs to cross the line 1 minute and 28 seconds ahead of Alessandro Popovic, who now is slowly but surely clawing his way back into this bike race. Quite a courageous performance by that man, completely isolated, no friends, no teammates. All he can do is suffer on his own in complete and utter silence.
8 kilometres to go. He's still fighting the undulations of the road here, but he is still going to give it his best shot, and he knows with every pedal step he could be pulling away from the rest of the race here. It's still a Nocentini, so he's going to go over the top of the climb in second place. He's done well to hang on. He's a big man, and he might well have a better descending skill than Cunego. He may yet get himself back into this, you know.
He may well do. He's just gone over the summit of the King of the Mountains there. He's turning over an absolutely massive gear. This young man was a great star in the early part of his career. I remember seeing him win 2 stages of the Tour de Langkawi. Since then, he's floated around in the sport of professional cycling, trying to find his way to the top end of the sport. And if he can catch up with that lone leader there, well, he's got himself a very good chance of getting a stage victory here at the Giro d'Italia. This is the second big group on the road. There's Julio Perez on the back, just in front of him, Christoph Brandt. And they're actually all not really very far behind Damiano Cunego.
They're about a minute behind there. Nocentini about 30 seconds behind. Cunego, diminutive rider, great climber, but the other riders a little bit more powerful. Alexander Moose leading that third group on the road there across the top of the last climb. Moose looking for the stage win after the sacrifice that Nicky Abersold made. And there is Jaroslav Popovic. It seems from that angle that he was starting to lose a little bit of ground. He has one of the Vini Calderoli riders on his wheel, look a little bit like Steve Zampieri there. And he's chasing Simoni as well as Gonchar, and also Stefano Garzelli is trying to close the gap with a teammate to that man, Gilberto Simoni.
Simoni on the defensive there, Phil, just sitting at the back of the group, not too worried about trying to chase down his own teammate, because he realizes this afternoon that he is actually putting a lot of pressure onto the shoulders of the man who started the day in the pink jersey, the man who was tipped for the top at some time, but I think if he wants to win the Giro, Jaroslav Popovic needs to get himself into a strong, well-structured team.
He's going to have to come up to that Simoni group as the riders in the leading groups now begin to splinter. Another kilometre ticked off there. They're going to go by very quickly on the way down now. Cunego racing towards a pink jersey and his third stage win of the Giro. But Nocentini, you know, he'll descend quite quickly. Much more body weight on the other big Italian. And there's a chance. There's the top of the climb. Alexander Moose remains a challenger in the King of the Mountains. He probably now moves into second place behind Fabian Weckmann with his third place on the final climb of the day. Now all we've got to find out is who's going to win, who's going to lead. We'll know after the break. Yes, it's all downhill now as we get back to the action with 3 kilometres to go. There is a big chase back coming from Ronaldo Nocentini, but will he catch up with Damiano Cunego? Is heading what looks like now his third stage win and a certain pink jersey, because the Simoni group is 3.5 minutes back of Cunego at the moment. The pink jersey of Jaroslav Popovic is even further back than that. This has been a real strange race today because of the early breakaway, and only Cunego has been able to leave the back groups and ride right into the head of the race, Bob.
Cunego doing a great job there, being chased hard by Rinaldo Nocentini. That's the third group containing Nocentini's teammate, Ruggero Marzoli. And I think this is Nocentini here. He's a fantastic descender. Probably has about 10 or 20 kilos of weight on Damiano Cunego, but Cunego only a couple of kilometers now to the finish line. Let's see if they can catch that man in the front.
Well, he was tied at 58 seconds over the top of the climb. He might close on that, but I'm not so sure he's going to close nearly a minute on the run into the finish now. Here is the young rider who doesn't have the body weight, but boy, can he climb mountains. There's the chase behind him. It's very close. He's probably around about 35 seconds, the split now between Nocentini and Cunego.
I tell you what, I think the Italian tifosi, the fans of the sport of professional cycling, knew something in the back of their minds before the start of this event, because they all predicted that it was going to be a major battle between Damiano Cunego and the team leader, Gilberto Simoni. And that seems to be what is happening here this afternoon. Maybe Gilberto Simoni doesn't have the ability in his legs to get away from Jaroslav Popovic, but from a tactical point of view, the team has been absolutely superb. They've ridden excellently this afternoon. They had men in the early morning breakaway. They used those men as a launch pad for Damiano Cunego to get away from the group of Popovic. And now riding, I think, as an admirable teammate there, you can see, Bob, that Gilberto Simoni is not contributing at all. 1.5 kilometres to go for the leader.
Start the clocks when he hits the line, because he started the day 1 minute and 48 seconds behind the overall leader. He's got about 4 minutes on him just now, and so he'll be well into the lead. Simoni will probably be up into second place, or he might still be playing only third place behind Sergei Honchar, who has had a great day as well. Let's not forget that. One Ukrainian may have lost the lead. Another Ukrainian still remains a big challenger.
It's amazing to look down the finishing straight at this young man. It's not very often we see a world junior champion come up to the top end of the sport. They normally come to the top too early and then burn out, but this man certainly hasn't done that. He was world junior champion back in 1999, but this, I think, will be the sign of a real dominant performance. He's inside of 800 meters to go. He is not going to give up at all. I don't think we'll see too many victory celebrations here either, because he knows the important thing today is the clock, not the celebrations.
He's not 23 years of age until September this year. During the Vuelta a España, in fact, will be his birthday on September the 19th. Here he is, about to win his third stage of the Giro. He has already had the pink jersey on 6 occasions in this race, and I'm pretty sure now he'll be pulling it on once again. And this time, it may be for keeps. We doubted whether this man had the stamina in the mountains at such a young age. Well, today he's climbed 4 big ones, and he's done it the hard way. He's come from the back, through the groups, ridden them all off his back wheel, to the front, and by the finishing line, after more than 6 hours in the saddle, Damiano Cunego will shortly be looking over his shoulder to see if yet again he is the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia. This will go down as his finest win. As he hits the line, the clock starts now.
And you see that he never even lifted his arms in a victory salute, because he knows that this can count in seconds. He's over the line now. He can now celebrate and enjoy his victory. Winner of stage number 16. But look at the time gap he put over himself and Ronaldo Nocentini. But what's more important is the position of Jaroslav Popovic. 1:48 behind at the start of the day. He'll get a 20-second time bonus, so he only needs to wait 1:28 seconds to see if he's going to be the new pink jersey out on the road.
Well, I have to say, Bob, he crossed the line there looking as fresh as a daisy. I hardly think he's been out for 6 hours. You see his young face full of smiles, hardly a bead of sweat. This rider here, Nocentini, coming in. He closed a little bit on the descent, but not much, did he? He went over the top 58 seconds behind. He's going to hit the line, not too far off, being about the same as he comes up to the line. Nonetheless, a good ride by Nocentini. He hung on to Cunego. Nobody else could do that today. As in fact, he's lost time on the running pool. He's going out to over 1 minute.
He's going further and further back, and just another quick calculation. The only person who could spoil the party is Sergei Gonchar if the clock stops at 1:25, but somehow I don't think that is going to happen at all. This man has extended his advantage over the last 10 kilometers or so. Nocentini stops the clock at 1:16. I tell you what, Sergei Gonchar is a lot further back than 1:25.
And this is the remnants of the early breakaway, which went clear at the start of the day and survived. Laverdi taking on, but Moose is presenting us with quite a sprint. Iliano also in the mix as well. But it looks as though Alexander Moose will come over the line in third place, and our clock not counting. So it looks about 1:40, 1:39 probably on the clock.
This is the group of Gilberto Simoni and Sergei Gonchar just coming up to the line. They're trying to pull back Juliano Figueras, who's in the orange jersey in that group. He survived his day. This race is completely split to pieces over the last 20 kilometers, and it was all because of that very difficult last climb of the day, the Passo Terento. Look at the time. The clock is very important now. The group we're looking down the finishing straight at is the group of Sergei Honchar, and I think Jaroslav Popovic certainly did pop this afternoon.
Well, let's see if he can do anything on the way up here, because this is going to be a tight finish. Honchar, his time has gone too now. Cunego has the pink jersey as well as the riders are coming in. Watch out for Simoni, Garzelli, and of course the pink jersey of Popovic. As the clock says 2:29. These are huge time gaps now, and the Cunego will start tonight to calculate how he is going to win this race, I think, because that the Simoni group that's come in at 2:40, I think it was.
2:40 was the time there. That was an important time for them. What we've got to do now is sit back and wait to see just when the pink jersey is going to arrive at the finishing line. Sitting on his wheel there is Pavel Tonkov. He won't get any help at all from Tonkov. This young rider, just 24 years of age, in his third attempt at the Giro d'Italia, is out on the open road. He's lost the pink jersey this afternoon, and I feel a little bit sorry for him, Bob, because with the pink jersey on his shoulders with a slightly stronger team, he might have just held on to defend it.
Got himself caught behind the attacks from Simoni, also Mazzolini and Tonti up the road early in the race, and none of the teammates of Popovic could do anything about that, and he has lost big time to Damiano Cunego from the Saeco team, who had a premeditated attack plan, and it worked to absolute perfection. Cunego sweeping everybody away on the last climb and then doing a beautiful time trial to the finish to get another stage win and get the pink jersey back off of this man, Jaroslav Popovic, really struggling to the finish line with Pavel Tonkov, another former winner of the Giro d'Italia.
Tonkov taking the line there, Paul. 3:49 is the gap. That is an enormous gap to lose. You've got to take off what he was ahead overnight of 1:48, but of course he also gets a 20-second win bonus as well, so it's complicated, but it's going to mean he has a massive lead over Popovic now. Gonchar will probably hold second, Simoni come in at third. That's very much our calculations. There's the result. Nocentini coming in, Moose Iliano fourth, best result so far, well deserved. Christoph Brandt getting seventh. He'll also accelerate up the overall today because Brandt started the day in the top 20 risers overall, so he'll do very well. Well, they're going to continue to come in. I haven't seen Garzelli come in. I presume he might have been alongside Simoni, but I'm not absolutely certain that Garzelli hasn't had a bad day as well. But somehow we no longer see him as a contender in this year's Giro d'Italia. Well, we have yet another new leader, and the man has had the pink jersey before. We'll take a break and hope when we come back we can show him getting the jersey. And welcome back. We're looking down here on the town of Falzes, and it's the scene of another change in the Giro d'Italia as Damiano Cunego gets his third stage victory at 22.5 years of age, and after this he'll also get a pink jersey. It's been a wonderful moment for this young rider.
Absolutely fabulous. You know, I make a quick calculation. He's had 8 wins in the last 4 weeks, but I think the ones that he cherished the most will be the ones that have been in the last 2 weeks. He's got himself 3 stage victories at the Giro d'Italia. He's worn the pink jersey on 6 occasions. Now he's going to get to wear it again, and strangely enough, he's just been presented with a nice warm jacket there. The first day that he got the pink jersey, Bob, they didn't have a pink jersey not small enough for him.
Well, he's got a jacket there on the stage. He might need it in a couple of days when they go over the Gavia Pass that is still surrounded by snow. But a great win by Damiano Cunego and a rising star, not only in Italy but in worldwide cycling. He's very pleased, very happy to put in an incredible stage. I think the team had such a great plan out on the roads that they did absolutely no wrong. They wanted to put Popovic under pressure, and they most certainly did that.
Big time gaps as well on the finishing line. 1:16 back to Ronaldo, Nocentini, Alexander Moose, leaving the remnants of that early morning breakaway in at 1:38. But I tell you what, the gaps over the rest, Phil, were absolutely phenomenal.
Well, as he champagnes the crowd, let's have a look at the Cialis moment of the day, and of course it is the great triumph of Damiano Cunego, this man who has ridden so well in defence of Gilberto Simoni, but at the end of the day he's had to do it himself.
He's had to do it all by himself. I think the team used him as a superb joker out on the race this afternoon because he went out on the attack. He was paced by a couple of teammates, but at the end of the day, when you have to put the hammer down, you can only do it by yourself.
Well, that was the Cialis moment, and this is the stage result. 6 hours 10 minutes for Cunego, 1:16 to Nocentini, Moose, Iliano, Di Grandi were all in the early morning breakaway. Cunego had to beat them, catch them and drop them to get his victory today. And there are big time gaps there too. 1:38 to the men, frankly, really aren't important, but we're looking at 2:40 to Simoni, 3:49 to Popovic. They are the big losers today. Now he's back on stage again, and he salutes the crowd, and here it comes, the return of the Maglia Rosa. He had it for 6 days. It went to Popovic in the time trial. It's now back in the mountains.
It's great for Italian cycling, I think, Bob. Wouldn't you agree that after such a difficult time they've had over the last couple of years, with the demise of some of the top big names like Mario Cipollini and the sad departure of Marco Pantani, they now have a new, young, up-and-coming star.
Definite up-and-coming star. Very nice kid, great bike racer, junior world champion. Obviously, it takes incredible amount of talent but we don't often see a junior world champion so quickly coming up to the top end of the international professional level of the sport. But this man has certainly proved to be a worthy exception to that rule. Damiano Cunego now justified putting on that pink jersey. At the end of the day, he did it all by himself with his very, very powerful legs and a great ride all the way through these mountains to the finish line. Still a few more big days in the mountains, but Cunego looking good. I think Sergei Gonchar is the only man that didn't change on GC. The whole rest of the top 10 in chaos, and it seems as Popovic is still in third place by that graphic, and Gonchar is now a minute and 12 seconds behind this rider, Damiano Cunego, who sprinted all the way to the line.
Well, I tell you, those gaps are big, but hats off to Sergei Gonchar. Rode a great race to hang on there at 1:14. He's retained his second place overall. Popovic only slips into third place, and a podium place right now will be seen as an improvement on last year because he's had the pink jersey for a couple of days as well. Simoni probably in fourth place and very close to Popovic there. That was a big effort by Popovic just to hang on to a podium place. But there are lots more mountains to come, of course. Remember, it's a day off tomorrow. The riders have a chance to recover a little bit. And as we all know, after days off, the body often goes a little bit different. So remember, there's the situation. Gonchar 1:14, Popovic 2:22. Yes, just a few seconds, you see. Back to Simoni. Figueras rode well in fifth place. So at the end of the day, we have a man we are now becoming very familiar with. Now, it's a day off, as I say, tomorrow. But when we restart our programs on Thursday, then you'll be looking at stage 17. In itself, not a terribly hard mountain stage. We've got this one big climb as we get down to Sanonocchino, and then it is a climb up towards the finishing line, which in itself will hurt the boys. There's the elevation for you. It looks pretty cruel, to say the least. A maximum gradient of 1 in 10 or 10%, and it's a long climb too, 9 miles to the summit. We'll be back with you on Thursday with coverage of that stage, live of course, as we go onward. Usual time, 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast, and our re-air on the East Coast at 1 p.m, 3 hours difference with the West Coast. So, the young man who now might be setting himself up to win this race, Gilberto Simoni, will have to ask the question after this stage whether he should decide to throw all his weight in helping Damiano Cunego become one of the most recent youngest winners ever of the Giro d'Italia. Read about it on the website olntv.com. Enjoy the coverage with us. We'll see you when the race returns on Thursday. For Bob Roll, Paul Sherwen, Phil Liggett saying goodbye for now.